This story is titled, I Was About to Lose My Inheritance, until my grandparents stepped in. Hi, everyone. Before we dive a quick favor. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It is free, supports the channel, and make sure you never miss out on amazing video. Alright, let us get started. I'm 28 years old now, and let me tell you, my family's history is a messy web of favoritism and double standards. From as far back as I can remember, it was painfully obvious that my younger sister Lila, who's 25 now, was always the favorite, especially in our dad's eyes. The playing field was never level. Even as little kids, it was clear Lila could do no wrong, and the favoritism only grew stronger with time. One memory that sticks with me is my 5th birthday. I got a cheap cake from the grocery store and a quiet dinner at home. But when Lila turned 2 later that same year, my parents went all out with a huge party, face painters, a bounce house, even a petting zoo. That pretty much set the tone for our childhood. As we grew older, the favoritism only became more blatant. Lila always had the shiniest new toys, the trendiest clothes, and got showered with attention. I still remember being 10 years old, saving every penny of my allowance for months to buy a bike. The day I brought it home, Lila had a meltdown because she wanted one too. And instead of teaching her to save or be patient, my parents went out the next day and bought her a newer, more expensive one. School was no different. My parents showed up to every single one of Lila's recitals and events, but somehow always had something more important when it came to mine. I'll never forget the 4th grade play where I landed the lead role. I practiced for weeks and was so excited. On the night of the performance, they arrived over an hour late, missing my big scene, all because Lila had said her stomach hurt. Turns out, she was completely fine. They just lost track of time playing with her at home. No matter what I achieved, it never seemed to be enough. I joined the math club, kept straight A's through middle school, and even won first place at a regional science fair. All I got was a casual nod. Meanwhile, Lila brought home a B+ in her weakest subject, and they celebrated like she'd cured cancer, dinner out, a brand new phone, the whole deal. High school was a nightmare. I bent over backward trying to earn their approval. I held a perfect 4.0 GPA, led the debate team, and ran the school newspaper. Meanwhile, Lila was barely passing and spent most of her time with friends. In junior year, I got accepted into a prestigious summer program at Harvard. It was a huge deal for me. But when I shared the news at dinner, Dad just grunted and changed the subject to Lila's upcoming dance recital. Mom gave me a lukewarm, "That's nice," before asking Lila what outfit she planned to wear. The night I was supposed to fly to Harvard, I asked them for a ride to the airport. But since Lila had a dance recital that same night, they told me they couldn't miss it. I had to ask a friend's parents to take me. That pretty much summed up how things always went. College was no easier. I poured everything into my applications, late nights writing essays, prepping for the SAT, juggling extracurriculars. When I finally got into several top-tier schools and secured a major scholarship to my dream college, their reaction was, "That's good, but don't get cocky, and just remember where you came from." Meanwhile, when Lila barely scraped through high school and decided college wasn't for her, they praised her for being independent and even bought her a brand new car. Years of this chipped away at me. By the time I hit my late teens and early 20s, I was deep in the trenches of anxiety and depression. It was not until I started therapy in college that I began to understand none of this was my fault. Their warped favoritism had nothing to do with my value as a person. It took a lot of time and effort, but I slowly started to rebuild my confidence. Despite everything, I built a good life for myself. I graduated with honors, landed a steady job in finance, and bought my first home at 27. I am proud of how far I have come, even if my parents never once acknowledged it. And that brings me to the mess I am dealing with now. A few months ago, my grandfather on my dad's side passed away. He was a self-made man who had worked hard to build up his wealth, and in his will, he chose to divide his estate evenly among all of his children and grandchildren, which included me, Lila, and our cousins. My portion came out to around $500,000, more than enough to pay off my student loans, invest wisely, and maybe even launch a business someday. When the will was read aloud, my parents' faces said it all. They looked absolutely furious. Later that day, they pulled me aside and told me it was not fair that I received the same amount as Lila. After all, she was still living in their basement and barely getting by with her part-time coffee shop job. I tried to stay calm. I reminded them that Grandpa had been clear about what he wanted and that it was not up to us to question his decision. But they kept pressing, insisting that I should do the right thing and hand over my inheritance to Lila. When I stood my ground, they shifted gears. Suddenly I was selfish, ungrateful, and cold-hearted. They started listing off every little thing they had ever done for me: braces, school supplies, a roof over my head during college, conveniently forgetting about the shopping sprees and luxury gifts they showered on Lila. Then it got worse. Since Dad was one of the executors of the will, he announced that he was going to reinterpret it, meaning he planned to take my entire share and give it to Lila. He actually had the nerve to claim that Grandpa would have wanted it that way if he truly understood the situation. I was stunned. Not only was that completely illegal, it was another slap in the face, proof that they still saw me as disposable. I tried to reason with them, explaining that Grandpa knew exactly what our situations were, and he still chose to treat us equally. My mother accused me of disrespecting the dead. When I mentioned how much Grandpa had supported me over the years, they brushed it off and said I had misunderstood him. Even Lila did not stand up for me. When I pulled her aside to talk, she just shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know what they're doing." That was the last straw. I went straight to the one person I knew I could count on: my grandma, Grandpa's widow. When I told her everything, she was livid. She said that years ago, my parents had actually tried to convince Grandpa to leave everything to Lila, and he flat out refused. In fact, he had even added a clause to his will. Anyone who tried to contest the equal split would lose their entire share. With that knowledge in hand, I confronted my parents again. The look on their faces when I mentioned Grandma's proof said it all. Dad tried to twist it, claiming they were just trying to help Lila, but the guilt was written all over him. Grandma did not waste time. She brought in the other executors and hired a lawyer. She even called up Dad's siblings, who were just as outraged as she was. Together, they made sure Dad could not alter a thing in the will. My parents had no choice but to back off. But now, they are furious with me. They say I turned the whole family against them. My mom cried about how I tore the family apart. Dad threatened to write me out of their will, which, honestly, sounds more like a relief than a punishment. They made it clear, if I keep the inheritance, I am dead to them. They told me I would never be welcome in their house again. My mom even said I had proven I never loved them, that I only cared about money. The family is now split. Some of my cousins are in my corner, saying they always knew how bad the favoritism was. Others think I should have just caved in for the sake of keeping the peace. Even Dad's siblings have taken my side, but it has definitely caused tension between them and my parents. As for Lila, she is stuck in the middle. She told me, quietly, that she feels bad about everything, but she is too dependent on Mom and Dad to risk standing up to them. And honestly, I get it. They raised her to seek their approval no matter what. Still, part of me wishes that just once, she would have stood by me. This whole situation has ripped open a lifetime of old wounds. I keep thinking about every birthday they skipped, every moment they dismissed, every time they made me feel invisible. But this is not just about money. This is about finally standing up for myself after years of being pushed aside. Things are tense now. Family dinners are unbearable. I even skipped the last one because I could not handle the glares and icy silence. But deep down, I feel something I never used to strength. For the first time, I stood my ground and refused to be walked over. And you know what? It feels damn good. Standing up for myself and finally demanding the respect I deserved has been both terrifying and incredibly freeing. Deep down, I know I made the right choice, but I will not lie. The constant tension and family drama have been wearing me down. Lately, something I thought I left behind in college has crept back in: the anxiety attacks. They hit me out of nowhere, sharp and overwhelming. Because of that, I have seriously been thinking about going back to therapy, just so I have someone to help me process the stress and keep things from spiraling. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if I did the right thing by refusing to give in to my parents. Would it have been easier to just hand over the money to Lila and avoid all this chaos? There is a part of me that is just so exhausted from always being the problem child, the one who stirs up tension. But there is also this fear that I might lose my family entirely. If anyone out there has advice or even just a fresh perspective, I would really appreciate it right now. Even just knowing someone is listening would mean more than I can say. A lot has happened since I posted that first story about 6 months ago. Before I jump into what has changed, I want to thank everyone who reached out with advice, support, or even just a few kind words. You have no idea how much that helped me hold it together when it felt like everything was falling apart. Let us start with the legal side of things. After reading dozens of comments urging me to protect myself, I finally got a lawyer involved. He sat me down, laid everything out, and confirmed what I already suspected. I had every legal right to my inheritance, and what my dad tried to do, 100% illegal. We gathered and documented everything, just in case we had to take it to court. Thankfully, it never reached that point. Thanks to Grandma, her lawyer, and my dad's own siblings stepping in, we were able to resolve it without a full-blown court battle. In the end, I received every penny Grandpa intended for me. And my dad? He was removed as executor because of the shady stunt he pulled trying to reroute the inheritance. It was not easy, though. Those few weeks were filled with threats of lawsuits, screaming over the phone, and some of the most hostile conversations I have ever had with anyone, let alone my own parents. But the law was clear, and when they realized they had no leg to stand on, they finally backed off. The emotional fallout within the family, though? That is a whole other story. At first, my parents doubled down. They called me selfish, accused me of turning my back on Lila, and painted me as some greedy villain. They even started spreading lies to other relatives, claiming I manipulated Grandpa or somehow tricked everyone into giving me money. The good news is, most of the family saw through their act. But then came the real breaking point, about a month after everything was finalized. One of my aunts hosted a family gathering, and even though my parents were not invited, they showed up anyway. It turned into a disaster. My dad started shouting about how I stole from Lila and poisoned Grandma's mind. My mom, clearly emotional, threw an old family photo album at my feet. It got so bad, some of my relatives had to physically escort them out of the house to stop the scene. Through all of this, Grandma has been my greatest source of strength. She opened up to me in ways she never had before, telling stories about how proud Grandpa was of everything I accomplished. She said he always celebrated my achievements quietly, even when my parents never did. She even pulled out a scrapbook Grandpa had kept, filled with newspaper clippings of my awards, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even the program from that school play they missed all those years ago. It was incredibly touching, but also left me with a bittersweet ache. It hit me just how much silent support Grandpa had given me over the years, even when it felt like I was alone. Grandma did not stop there. She went a step further and called a big family meeting, and this time, my parents were deliberately left out. She laid everything bare, the years of favoritism, the milestones they ignored, and how often I had been pushed to the side. Finally hearing someone say it out loud, after carrying it for so long, hit hard. But at the same time, it made me feel more seen and understood than I had in years. And then something I never expected happened. Lila came to me and apologized. After some soul-searching and a few heart-to-hearts with Grandma, she admitted that she had known it was wrong but had always been too afraid to go against Mom and Dad. We sat down and really talked about growing up in that house, about what it meant to be the so-called golden child. Turns out, her role came with its own set of chains. Lila told me she often felt trapped, like every decision she made had to be filtered through them. She said watching me take a stand gave her the strength to finally step out of their shadow and start living life on her own terms. And you know what? She actually followed through. She enrolled in college using her inheritance. She is starting at a community college, but she is already making plans to transfer to a 4-year school later on. Watching her take that step made me incredibly proud, more than I can even put into words. Our parents, as you can probably guess, did not take it well. They tried to guilt-trip Lila first, telling her she was turning her back on the family. When that failed, they changed their tune, offering forgiveness if we would just come to our senses. Believe it or not, Mom has started making some progress. Thanks to a whole lot of nudging from Grandma, and maybe from seeing Lila thrive without their control, she began going to therapy. Eventually, she reached out to me with a real apology. We are taking it slow. I am not in a hurry to rebuild things, but I am open to listening with firm boundaries in place. Dad, though? Still the same. He is holding on to the past, playing the victim, and trying to control the narrative from afar. He hardly speaks to Lila now, and when he does, it is just more emotional manipulation about how she is throwing her life away. It is painful to see, but I have accepted that I cannot make him change. As for the rest of the family, the ones who supported me, we are tighter than ever. I even moved closer to Grandma and the aunts and uncles who had my back. We have started our own little tradition, monthly cousin dinners, where we catch up and relax without any of the old drama weighing us down. Personally, I am in a much better place. I used the inheritance smartly, cleared out my student debt, set up a solid investment portfolio, and started planning a future business venture. Lately, I have been working on a dream, opening a community center that offers affordable mental health services and financial literacy programs. It feels amazing to think that some of that money could be used to build something that genuinely helps others. But if I am being honest, the biggest investment I made was in myself. I got back into therapy and even offered to help Lila start her own sessions. We are both doing the work to heal the wounds left by our upbringing. It is not easy, far from it, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I am becoming the man I was always meant to be. This whole ordeal? It broke a lot of things. But it also helped me find my voice, and I am not giving that up again. Even though I know I made the right call, I will not pretend the road has been smooth. There are still tough days. But I can say this with confidence. I am proud of myself for standing firm, for refusing to cave to guilt and pressure. One of the biggest surprises from all of this has been how it reshaped the way I look at my future. Going through all this chaos and diving deep into therapy showed me just how passionate I am about helping people who have been through the same kind of pain. I have been seriously considering going back to school to study family therapy, with a focus on adult children of emotionally immature parents. In the meantime, I have been volunteering at a local youth center, mentoring kids from tough home environments. And honestly, it is one of the most fulfilling things I have ever done. Being the person I needed when I was younger, it means everything to me. I am even thinking about starting a scholarship fund, using a portion of my inheritance to help kids from similar backgrounds. It feels like the least I can do. Lila and I are still rebuilding our relationship, and it has been going well. We have created our own tradition, something we call Sibling Day. Once a month, just the two of us hang out, no pressure, no parents, no drama. Last month we went hiking and had a picnic, and it felt like we were kids again, laughing, talking, and reconnecting on our own terms. Things with our parents are complicated. Mom is still in therapy and slowly starting to see how much damage her favoritism caused. We have had a few difficult but honest conversations over lunch, where we talk about the past and what rebuilding might look like. It is far from perfect, but it is progress. Dad, though, he is stuck. He refuses to own up to anything. In his mind, Lila and I should be grateful and obedient, and if we are not, we are the ones in the wrong. He has even skipped several family gatherings just to avoid seeing me. And yeah, that hurts. But I am learning to let go of trying to fix how he sees the world. That is his weight to carry, not mine. Thankfully, Grandma continues to be our anchor. She shares more stories about Grandpa now, how proud he was of us for standing up for ourselves. She has always believed in fairness and doing what is right, and her support has been constant through all the ups and downs. If there is one thing I have learned from this whole mess, it is that family is not always about blood. Sometimes, it is the people who show up, the ones who support you when it matters most. I have grown closer to my extended family, and I have built a circle of friends who never flinched when things got ugly. Setting boundaries and prioritizing my mental health has become non-negotiable. I am learning to say no without guilt, and for once, I feel okay with that. I spent way too many years chasing the approval of people who were never willing to give it. Now, I am giving myself permission to chase my own dreams and revisit passions I used to ignore. If I could say one thing to anyone going through something similar, it would be this: do not let anyone shame you for standing your ground. Even if it stirs up tension, even if it splits the family, you have every right to protect what is yours. Family relationships are messy, but that does not mean you deserve to be mistreated. And remember, it is never too late to start building the life you deserve. Find a good therapist if you need one. Lean on the people who lift you up. And do not be afraid to draw hard lines where they are needed. Your value is not based on how your family treats you. It is based on who you are. Lastly, I just want to say thank you, truly, to everyone who shared advice, encouragement, or simply read along. You helped me through one of the toughest chapters of my life, more than you probably realize. The road has not been easy, but for the first time in years, I am genuinely hopeful about the future. There is a new confidence growing in me, something steady, something strong, and I am excited to see where this next chapter takes me. You can bet I am going to break the cycle of favoritism and build the kind of family I always wished I had. Thanks for being part of the journey. If you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button and tap the notification bell. There are plenty more real-life stories coming your way.